Welcome to Tangled Roots, Stories Navigating Youth and Family Systems. Brought to you by the National Training and Technical Assistance Center for Child, Youth, and Family Mental Health, NTAC. Schools, juvenile justice courts, and child welfare services can be daunting for children and caregivers. New environments, unfamiliar instructions, and the need to trust new people can feel overwhelming. In this podcast series, we hear from those who've navigated these tangled roots through different systems. Each episode shares real-life experiences of youth, young adults, and families who experienced trauma or living with mental health needs. Our storytellers include individuals from various backgrounds, offering unique insights into their journeys through these complex systems. In today's episode, we hear from Meri, a dedicated parent and grandparent who has navigated the complexities of the juvenile justice system alongside her son. Meri shares her journey of confronting systemic challenges, the impact of peer support, and the vital role of personal resilience in overcoming adversity.
Hi, my name is Meri Viano. I am the Associate Director at a family organization based in Massachusetts. Most importantly, I am a parent and a grandparent and have been working both in the field as a peer for over 20 years, but really made the connection as a mom to my adult children and now raising a grandchild. It's interesting to me in doing the work that one of the systems that I have been touched on and with is the juvenile justice system. It's something that I didn't really look at that would be any different from a mental health system or a system that was connected to child welfare. What I first realized is that all systems play a very different place with families in the experience, both for myself and my son who was impacted. Before today's podcast, I was lucky enough to speak to my son, who unfortunately is incarcerated as I speak. And I asked him what he would like to know. And one of the things that he said to me is, Mom, it really is hard to get rid of those vision and traumas that came with showing up in court and looking at each other in a certain way. One of the pieces that I truly believe, though, in peer work is having solution and talking about what's helpful and harmful. Nobody can really prepare anyone for the court experience. But what we can do is talk with parents before and explain to them that what you see on TV related to court is not what it feels like as your experience and it being a person. In our state and in many states, parents are not allowed to stand side by side with their child. It doesn't matter the age or if the child needs that. You also have to wait to have a conversation with your child and not ask for information when you're in the courts. It has nothing to do with how the judges see families or how people that are defending people really see them. But what it is just the way the system is made. One of the helpful solutions that I try to bring to the table in this connection is explaining to families what it's like. Having a plan with my child of eye contact, not a smile, but maybe just a look eye to eye or a touch of my shoulder so that they know that I'm right there with them. We can always prepare families for different pieces. And if we can't, then we walk through what we call, and often, the pain that goes to healing. And the law enforcement professionals, and also the bias that came with raising a child that was connected to child welfare. I wasn't ready for the biases that would often come to the stories or the files that connected my child to needing more help. He didn't really need a court system or a justice system to determine that he was a child that had significant mental health needs and trauma, and that we as a family needed support to be able to heal. One of the most challenging pieces for myself as well was trying to understand the alphabet soup. There's so many different acronyms that happen, but when you throw in the court and you throw in the law, you get more acronyms that really don't mean anything to you. I found myself actually taking off my mom hat and taking off my advocate hat and trying to be the lawyer to understand what the laws were. But in training, my heart and my life will always remain as the strong mom and grandmother that I am. One experience that really comes to my mind often that I continue to reflect and go back to, as well as the impact that it's had on my son, is when we got to the courtroom, often sitting outside, not being called yet, but sitting and just really watching people around us and people that were, that had attorneys and did not have attorneys and what that looked like. I didn't realize that there was some preparation that I needed to do for my child and understanding what to expect when actually entering the courtroom. So I would ask you all to really think about what you know about court, and is it what you see on TV, and have you supported families, but really understanding what it's like. As a parent that walked into a courtroom with her son and an attorney that was assigned, I didn't realize that the swinging door that goes up to the judge, and where often the person that is being heard with their supportive legal representation would stand, I didn't realize that I wouldn't be able, number one, to stand with my child. I also didn't understand that that swinging door that leads you right up to where the judge is sitting, that I wouldn't be able to go right up to the judge to have a conversation. I thought that I would be asked my opinion, my impact and experience, like I had been by other systems as being the expert of my child as a parent. I always brought my young person's voice into it because I had peers around me that explained that we all had a different levels of experience. My son, I remember, stood by the lawyer and looked at me like, why am I not standing next to him? There was a face of fear and eye contact that I saw right away, which was one of being afraid and not knowing if he was going to even return home. I say that lightly, but it really was a heavy impact when he didn't know as a child, would he actually come back to me? Because what he saw on TV is often people are removed from that level of standing with a lawyer. His eyes of fear really showed that things were difficult in that situation. One of the things I did know, because another parent had talked to me, is that he showed up in a shirt and tie. And though that was hard as a 12-year-old, I remember saying to him that this is how you show up to court. We rehearsed, yes, Your Honor, several times in the role plays that we did from home. I showed up in my business casual wear that I did. And though I probably didn't wear the best shoes that I should have, there was a perspective of often people weren't told how to dress and how to show up. And I remember thinking to myself as I went through that door to stand with him, and I was stopped by a district attorney and told that I would be sitting behind him or on the other side with a level of understanding and teaching. There, I also realized that my white privilege showed that I was being taught how to act in that area and in that courtroom. In my work, I've often noticed, and in my day-to-day life with my children, I have seen my white privilege in the juvenile justice system in many different areas. And I often wondered as I heard the other young people that were called ahead of my child that showed up in street clothes, or maybe not the clothes that they wanted to wear in front of a judge because there was a comment made, that they really didn't know how to prepare. The impact again of not knowing and being in that experience brought trauma and pain when you didn't know what to do. The last thing I remember is when the lawyer was speaking, my son at one point wanted to say something else. What I didn't rehearse was that my son needed to be quiet and that the lawyer needed to go back in conversations with the lawyer and the district attorney. That is not something that I prepared my son for. So as an advocate in a family where advocacy is the family business, my son thought he could advocate or explain why. Rather, he needed to be patient, be quiet, and trust that the justice system and the legal system chooses and recognizes that everyone is free before they are guilty. And often, in fact, when juveniles show up, the question is, what do we see? What do we see their worth as? And what are we willing to do? I was thankful that I showed up in court, but one thing that I reflect on as a single parent is it would have been important to bring somebody else to the court with me to show that it was a family and there were people behind my son, not just the single mom. It was hard to take work off that day to attend to the court because it didn't happen within the first hour that the appointment was, but rather it took away an entire day at work. So there's lots of pieces that we can think about as we prep families and we prep young people. But one piece that we need to really remember is how tangled are the roots and how much are the connections to really helping people with every experience and every moment that they go through. the one caveat that I continue to say is that my experience and my son's experience will help others, and to not give up. You're definitely not alone. There's a lot of other people that are walking your shoes. Another area that comes with juvenile justice that I hope that you will consider is that when families go through the different circumstances, the child that's going through it or the young adult has their story. The parent and the family have their own story. And there's something that I refer to, and I've seen the term often talk about the sibling spillover. All of my siblings were impacted by the way that we were treated because of often blame and shame that was connected to it. One of the pieces that was eye-opening to me was every system, but in this system, specifically in the courts, there's not this connection that you are a human when entering it. A simple hi, a nod, a smile, touching someone's shoulder to let them know that you know that it's difficult and you're there for them can be something that can really get you through this next step. I also look to consider, and for many of us to consider, young people being brought into courts in shackles or handcuffs, and how traumatizing that can be, and still is a vision that I have for myself that takes the humanity out of the pain that is connected to what you go through. Both my son and my other children have talked about the impact that this journey has taken us on. And each of us, no matter where we are, looks at the fact that we want to be the teachers and the educators of how to make it better for the other young people and families that are going through it. Another piece that I would just recommend is, and talk about, is this place of moving pain to healing. There is an opportunity to allow generation after generation to heal with painful experiences as long as we have conversations and we allow other parents and young people to meet people like them. It was really eye-opening to me as being a grandmother now connected to a grandchild that often we keep kin or families away from other families or young people away from other young people like them. What I have learned is no matter what the situation and what the experience is, one of the most healing, free, and cost-effective ways to be able to push yourself through a journey is to meet another parent like you. But yet it is often the one piece that is tangled and not connected where parents can meet other parents or young people can meet other people. The peer-to-peer connection and the peer-to-peer movement is one piece that has helped us continue to heal, get to a place of understanding that systems really are not built to support sometimes the complexities that come with having trauma, mental health, and other necessities. I hope that the education of both my family, my journey, and my experience allows you to understand one simple thing. We need to work together as systems and families to make it the best that we can without harm and allow for no pain. But one simple thing is that parents are not alone and we deserve to be connected and young people deserve to be connected so that we can heal and untangle the root to one of opportunity, love, and healing.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tangled Roots. Meri's story underscores the challenges of navigating the juvenile justice system, from the unexpected trauma of court appearances to the biases and privileges that impact families. Her experience highlights the critical need to approach families with empathy and humanity. For support and resources, please check the show notes for information on evidence-based practices and implementation strategies to improve child and family mental health. Stay tuned for more episodes in our series and visit the NTAC website to learn about upcoming events and learning opportunities. At NTAC, we believe all children, youth, and families living with and impacted by mental health challenges have access to the resources and opportunities they need to thrive in a comprehensive and equitable system of care. We promote access to evidence-based and community-driven solutions while uplifting diverse voices through inclusive trainings and resources. We are dedicated to creating spaces for providers and community leaders to gather, learn, share insights, and build a national support network. This podcast is supported by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of the Financial Assistance Award SM20008 National Training and Technical Assistance Center for Child, Youth, and Family Mental Health Cooperative Agreement. The information and content are those of the podcast guests and do not represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by SAMHSA, HHS, or the U.S. government.